This is Josh Rosen. It's my turn now for you to listen to Scoop B Radio.
Scoop B Radio on your airwaves, on the plane, on the train, everywhere you want to be. I am your host, Brandon Scoopy Robinson. Check out Scoop B Radio on all streaming platforms. Check me out on Scoop B, or rather at Scoop B on Twitter, at Scoop B on Instagram, everywhere in between. But make sure that you guys are checking out this guy. It's his turn. Josh Rosen, the impersonation extraordinaire, joins us on the show today. Brother, what's going on?
Great to see you, Scoop. Great to be here. It's my turn now.
Why is it your turn?
Because you know it and I know it. It's always my turn to make the case that when it comes to doing impressions, Josh Rosen is that guy.
How did all of this get started, Josh?
Doing impressions, entertaining. When I was a kid, I used to be mimicking the students in the class and the teachers. And I think that's when I first noticed, wow, I've got a talent to do that, you know? And as a sports fan too, I grew up wanting to be a sports broadcaster. So the first impression that I did was Marv Albert. And when I would do it, people were like, wow, that sounds really good, you know? And so then it was like, I knew I had the ear to do it. And, you know, I'm still doing Marv Albert.
Can I hear that?
Yes, it counts. And the foul by Scoop put on LeBron James.
Yeah. So the Marv Albert impersonation was like your bridge.
It was like my bridge where it was like, wow, I can do this. I've got the talent to do impressions. And then it's about, you know, finding people that I want to imitate.
So just over the years, just paying attention to you, you usually react to trades, rumors, and Skip Bayless's voice under people's comments, correct?
Correct.
How did was that an idea that somebody gave you? Was it that you got engagement off of doing it on one person, so you continue to do it? What was the whole story there?
I've been trying to figure out a way to go viral, basically, to get my impressions out, because I've always felt like, how come more people aren't seeing my stuff, you know? Because I do a lot of other impressions besides Skip Bayless. And I just one day I just put it out, Skip Bayless replies, because I was like, well, let me try like a video reply to someone. No one's really doing that, right? So I figured I'm going to try it, and I'm going to do it as Skip Bayless. And I think I even replied to Shannon Sharp. And I did it like quickly, because when that's the key with these video replies, like I have to be on point. So as soon as people go to their tweet, they see my video underneath it. And that video of Skip Bayless replies that I did like a few years ago, it just went viral. And then I was like, okay, I think I found the formula.
I read somewhere that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I remember reading somewhere that it bothered you that Skip never acknowledged or responded to you and the impressions that you were doing of him. Is that correct?
It does bother me. I don't expect anything from him, you know, but it does bother me that he's never, and the reason why it bothers me is because a few years ago on his podcast, he actually said that nobody's been able to ever imitate him. He said Bill Hader and Frank Caliendo both tried, and so he came to the conclusion that nobody could imitate him. So that's what bothers me about it, is the fact that he hasn't acknowledged me since then.
Well, if we're being fair, when Shannon and Skip were doing Undisputed, they would take my reporting. We follow each other on Twitter. You see how hard I work to get quotes and information. And they would mention those things in their show without giving proper credit. So I think I think sometimes in this case, it might be the case. It may be about not being aware or so focused on yourself that you don't feel that you have to acknowledge other people.
Absolutely. Yeah. I do know he's seen it, though. I'm 99% sure of that.
How are you so sure?
There's some people that know him that have said that they were going to show him my impression, or that did show him my impression.
Was there ever a response?
Not that I know of.
Okay. So Skip is listening now. What do you want to tell Skip?
Mr. Bayless, I know that you might not like my impression of you. You might not want to admit that somebody can finally imitate you. But in the end, you know it and I know it. I don't mean any ill will, Mr. Bayless. This is what I do. This is my life's passion. This is just like you like analyzing Russell Westbrook and LeBron James. I like doing impressions. All I ask is one acknowledgement.
Do you do your impressions when you're in the bathroom brushing your teeth and washing your face? Like, where do you find yourself practicing?
Yeah, all the time. I always tell people to do an impression. Like, I'm more about quality than quantity with the number of impressions I do. Mm-hmm. So like, I'd rather have like 15 to 20 impressions that I do that I think are like A plus versus like 100 different impressions that aren't as good. And so like when I lock into someone, I practice everywhere, yeah, including in public sometimes. Actually, a lot.
Really? Do people look at you like you're crazy?
Well, they'll just think like, oh, that guy just sounds that way. He just uses that phrase. I've never seen anything quite like it, at the drive-thru.
Let me ask you, Stephen A. Smith is a black man from Hollis, Queens, New York. You are a white man from where?
South Florida.
How hard is it to get those accents and those ERs sounding like A doing Stephen A. Smith?
Well, let me be very, very clear. Stupid. When you look at it from that perspective, I am box office. And it isn't that difficult when you're not a scrub like I am.
President Donald Trump, is also from Queens like Stephen A. Smith. How hard of a transition from Stephen A. to Donald Trump is it?
So it's actually interesting because when I do Trump and I do Stephen A., they're both very similar, actually. They're both New York guys. They've got massive egos, huge egos, and they love talking about themselves. So it's actually a very, very similar impression.
Barack Obama was the president before Donald Trump. How hard was it to practice, or how hard was it to kind of just watch him, or how easy it was to get those mannerisms so that you can impersonate him?
Okay, so I'm going to say, before I go into the Obama impression, he's the hardest person I've ever imitated.
Really?
By far. But I knew I was able to do it, and whoever is president, like, I always want to imitate them as accurately as I can. But the thing with Obama is he was the most difficult, not because he's a black man, but because he's so politically correct all the time. So it makes it harder to like find things that, you know what I mean? Like to make fun of when I'm doing the impression.
Okay.
Look, Scoop, I know that my Chicago Bulls haven't been very good for the last at least 15, 20 years. But I believe that if we can get them access to affordable health care, we can make the Bulls great again.
God bless.
I feel like the way that The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and Barack Obama enunciate certain things, or the way that they pause, are similar. Is it hard to do a Rock impersonation?
Yes, it is actually. But you make a good point there with The Rock. That is very similar.
Okay. Joe Biden is also another guy that you've impersonated. How was that hard to pick up on his mannerisms?
Come on, man. Give me a break. I'm sure the thing with doing Biden is you gotta look a little bit confused all the time. Do this thing where I lick my lips. And then always doing this, just scratching your nose.
Okay. Okay. Who is someone that you just can't do?
So, okay, there's some like sports broadcasters that I'd like to be able to get down more than I do currently. Mike Breen, like
Hmm.
I feel like I can almost get there, but bang, puts it in. Ho, tie game. I don't know how that sounds, but I feel like I can. I feel like I'm having trouble getting his voice down all the way.
What about Iron Eagle?
He's another one that I've been trying to do, and I find that voice very difficult.
Really?
Find it very difficult. Kevin Harlan is one that I've been doing, and I think I've got it down pretty good.
We're listening.
Galloping, chiseling, knifing, corkscrewing his way down the lane is Skip Bayless. With no regard for human life, he dropped a sledgehammer right between the eyes. You're listening to the NBA on TNT, presented by State Farm.
Wow, that's pretty daggone good.
All right?
So you're doing all these impersonations. You're commenting under people's tweets. Where do you take this?
Well, I'm hoping that I can, and I'm starting to do live comedy shows. So I have an act, a stand-up act that's all impressions. And so I do perform at venues. People have been hiring me to actually come as Donald Trump for like their birthdays or whatever private events and do my impression and roast people. But really, I'd like to start getting onto like more TV shows and be known as, if I could compare myself to anyone, I'm not him, but just to like career path, Frank Caliendo.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like that's really where I want to get to, where he's just the guy, you know, that is known for doing that.
Yeah. That turns into SNL. That turns into
SNL, something
alternate
like that.
alternate broadcasts on TV, like while games are on, and you tell your story, and you people become more familiar with you and your brand, and you continue to grow.
That's it. Yeah.
I like that. I like that. What is something that I haven't asked you that you want to share?
Well, if you want to ask me, let's see, do I play any sports myself?
Do you?
So I was a poor basketball player as a kid. I love the game though. And I don't currently play anymore. The only sport that I currently play is golf.
Okay. What's your handicap?
The sport. No, I'm like
Okay.
I'm like a 20 handicap.
Okay.
I break 100. Yeah.
You know, I meant to ask you. You're not comparing yourself, but you made mention of the Caliendo. He's mastered Charles Barkley.
Yes.
Is that in your repertoire?
I've toyed with it. Yeah.
Okay.
The thing is too, and I've been working on Ernie Johnson too, because I've never seen anyone imitate Ernie. The thing with Barkley though is, okay, so when I see someone, and I'm not saying that two people can't do an impression, but like Caliendo did Barkley so well, I don't think I can top it.
Fair.
You know? And so
Fair.
It's like, if I see someone do an impression and I'm like, that's so spot on, I don't think I'll ever do a better impression of that. Then I usually leave it alone.
Here's my question. The Skip Bayless controversy with Fox, without touching on that specifically, did you find that your engagements on social media went up when the news broke?
Way up.
Really?
Especially on X, because that's where most of my audience is, and I think that's where most of like the sports audiences that follow Skip. People were tagging me, wanting me to like. It's funny that like anytime news breaks about Skip, they want to hear it from me because they almost know, like, well, we're not going to get anything from Skip, so what? So the Skip impersonator has to do it, and I'm kind of careful with it. Like, yeah, I understand it's comedy, but I also, like, I don't intend harm. Like, this is a lawsuit, and I don't know what's true, what's not. So I also don't want to, make it come across like I'm alleging Skip did something that he may not have done.
You want to have clean fun, and you want to keep it safe, and keep your name out of anything negative.
Right. Because my intention for the impressions for all the people I imitate is not to destroy the person's character. It's really not. It's just to get a laugh.
Well, you definitely supply us with that. If it's not Josiah tweeting something about something after some news breaks on social media, Josiah Johnson, of course, then it's you giving the reaction, the Skip Bayless reaction to whatever's going on, and you definitely keep us entertained and informed over at X. Josh Impressions is where you need to go to get all of that stuff, brother. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, Scoop. And I've never seen anything quite like you.
Thank you, brother.